Well, I don't know where Brian is, mate.
Good question. Where is Brian? Where is Brian?
It's like the new Where's Wally? You've got to find Brian.
Jeez.
It
I'm sure he'll appreciate that. I'm sure of that.
Yeah, he may come along in a bit. I have sent a message to him, but
Yeah.
we are a day late because things occurred yesterday and everybody got tied up. So we are back today. It is the final. It's the final episode, Paul, of the Prospect Project.
Yeah. Before we even go into that, just
Come on.
apologies about yesterday, folks. We know normally we do try and keep to our normal schedule between Tuesdays and Thursdays on the off season, but obviously undue for circumstances, we've now pushed it to tonight. So,
Yes.
So welcome to a very rare episode on a Wednesday evening. So yes, and as Mike just said there, it's the final episode of the Prospect series.
Yes, which means next year we'll bring it back and go back to that. But it does mean we're getting ever so closer to the draft.
Absolutely.
We are back into it next week on Tuesday, doing a 7-round mock, and we'll try and get a special guest in for that. And although we are on back-to-back shows, which means as well tomorrow we have a special guest. It is, if you are a regular listener to the show, I'll give you a clue: Triple H.
Oh yes, that should be fun. Should be fun.
He is in the building.
There he is.
Excited to join us.
There he is.
Yeah, sorry about that, folks.
That's all right, man.
Race against time, hit every red light along the way to get home. So great fun. How are things?
Yeah, good. We're just saying now that we're on to the very last episode of the Prospect Project. This is
you literally just missed the introduction. That was it. So you're good, brother.
Yeah, that's very good altogether. So how are we doing, gentlemen? How has the week been?
Life is
good. So far it's been a wee bit. Well, my day job's been a wee bit intense this week, but other than that, I'm just looking forward to the draft, pretty much, bro.
Yeah,
nothing really much new to report. It's kind of, like so me and Meg, we've been doing our thing for the Worlds team and stuff like that. It's been going really well, and I've been asked to join on the Blogging the Boys on draft day as well for
lovely.
So I will be jumping on our stream and jumping on theirs and vice versa. We'll probably end up getting RJ to come on ours as well. So there's going to be a lot of crossing over
back and forth.
So that'll be good.
And seeing as we are speaking of the coverage, do we want to reveal to our fans what our actual coverage plans are for the draft day and for the weekend itself?
That's a good question.
I mean, we can divulge that on Tuesday.
On Tuesday. Very good, because we do have a lot lined up for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, you can also mention it tomorrow as well for tomorrow's show, which is back to regular schedule and stuff like that. So, so we got a couple of comments in then already. No, we don't.
Yeah,
what we had.
It was me.
But I mean, look, guys, we're into single digits at this stage. So before we do kind of a deep dive into the prospects tonight, what are your own feelings for next Thursday night? I mean, Jerry spoke about trading up at the weekend. Do you think it's a smoke screen? Do you think it's going to be O-line or wide receiver, or do you think it'll go another way?
I really don't know, Brian. Here's the thing. I really have no an absolute Scooby-Doo what's going to happen on day one. Like, I do genuinely believe it depends how the board lines up. Really, like, see if there's a Nakobe Dean there, there's a Wyatt there. I would not be surprised and I would not be mad if we did pick the best player available based on that situation. I would not, even if like, my only problem I will have is drafting wide receiver at 24 is because and I brought this point up with Meg on Sunday for the World's Team Show, is that we just traded away our first rounder caliber Amari Cooper, who was not getting as much targets. What means to say we're going to draft a similar type of player at 24 that to Cooper under the Kellen Moore scheme? And would that not be more or less a wasted draft pick where we can actually get a more slot guy, like, for example, Khalil Shakir, in the later rounds, more value for money, the one that's going to get more utilized more? So that's the only issue I will have with regards to if we do go the wide receiver. It's like, are we going to utilize him? Yeah, it'll be a start. Yeah, it'll be a start, but is he going to get enough targets?
Yeah. I mean, if you tease that wide receiver debate out a little bit, in that Cooper was a first-round receiver. We took a first-round receiver 2 years ago who's still on the team. We've given a big contract to a guy who's only going to play half of next season. So I'd be with you, Paul. It might be a small pen throw depending on who it is, because, you know, like when we covered the top 6 wide receivers a few weeks back, there's players I would happily take if they're there, but it is a little bit of a luxury. But Mike, give us your own thoughts.
In terms of what Jerry said about going up in a draft, I don't think it's a smokescreen so much, because he generally is not that type of person. What I think he's referring to is what he's going to do more specifically in day 2. I think that day 2 is a place where he's going to go up.
Yeah, I would not be mad at that. Like, you maybe trade up back, going back into the second round if there's, or move up a couple of places in the second round and maybe exchange like a next year third on top of that or something like that. I wouldn't be too mad, but I don't want to be giving up draft picks this year, because as we kind of said, like, this year's draft class has actually got a fair bit of good depth from multiple points of positions that we don't want to lose out on. So, and potentially between round 1 and round 3, essentially, those guys could be primarily starters end of the day, depending on who we draft.
Yeah, I think depending on what's there, you know, because what's there at the top of round 2 really depends on how out of position some players will get drafted in the first round. And then I think that will be then a moment where the Cowboys go, okay, let's look into this. What's it going to cost us to go up?
Yeah. So the other thing I've been thinking about in the last couple of days is if we remember 2020, we were talking about taking a defensive end. And 2021, we were hell bent on taking one of the 2 corners.
Yeah.
Like, for me, I think we've already tipped our card in that we're looking at O-line and wide receiver based on the 30 visits. And I have a feeling it's going to go another way, and we're going to end up with a Devin Lloyd or a defensive tackle.
And I would not be mad at that. I would not be mad. Like, it's, again, if it's something that's going to help accommodate the defense for the future, going with the Dan Quinn idea, I'm all for that. But at the same time, like, if we're going into this, we must, and this is a must within the draft, is like second, third, fourth rounds. That's when we really need to get bodies in for O-line, because we've not, like, we've lost O-linemen this year. Like, Lyle Collins is gone, Connor Williams is off to Miami, Bon Voyage. But I'm sorry I throw a little bit of shit there, but that's generally how I feel about it. But
no, that's all good. That's all good. It's like, we have to be fair, and I can park my Texas Longhorns hat on this. You know, I think he will do well wherever he is in the league. He's never going to be a superstar offensive lineman.
Yeah. So and there is some good guys you can really get a good they're not going to be blue chip, of course. That there will be some things they will need to work on, like maybe, and this is one thing we're going to maybe talk about in the show for the prospects. It's like there could be things like upper body strength needs to improve, the footwork might need to improve. There's all those wee developmental parts when it comes to being an offensive lineman that are definitely needed, but there's a lot of good core fundamentals like hand placement, the ability to block and the pass rush, kick steps, you name it. They are all there. It's just a matter of what other things that needs fine tuned. So this is what we would be really good to kind of like go over with these prospects we're ready to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this is why we kind of, when myself and Mike were talking about this, was how we were kind of planning it, was that we were going to look at the day 2 kind of offensive linemen, because there's a potential, and I think the potential they're going to double dip on day 2 for O-line players and take a tackle and take a guard.
I said this when Jeff Kavanagh was on. I said,
you asked him that, that's right.
And he was like not sure about the idea. But then once you start looking into it and talking about it, you can talk yourself into it and go, actually, that isn't a bad idea.
Well, big shout out to Benny. How you doing, my friend? Welcome. DJ Dog, as always, here we are. How are we? Welcome.
Welcome to a Wednesday show.
Yeah, Wednesday
show.
Yeah. You lucky people, you get us twice back to back.
Yes, back to back. And as we say, folks, if you've comments, if you've thoughts, if you've ideas, do not be afraid to put them in. Otherwise, as we always say, we're 3 guys or 4 guys or 5 guys just talking amongst ourselves. So you guys are the most important people here. Mike.
Like Mike says, you guys are the MVPs.
Yeah,
MVPs. Absolutely, you are. So do not be afraid to interact with us. We will always pull up your comments. We might not get to them straight away because we have a certain flow planned for the show, but we will always try to come back to points and bring them up as we know we're going to discuss them. But look, I don't think there's any major Cowboys news for us to cover before we dive in, is there?
Yes,
there is. So go ahead, Mike.
It's about Brianna. That she's got the,
I was just about to say that.
She's a good friend of ours. She was going to join us on the draft day. Actually, on draft day, she was going to join us. But now that she's got the big gig in Tampa, we wish her good luck. We hope that we speak to her again. We know that deep down, she will always be a Cowboys at heart.
Yeah, don't be a stranger, Brianna. Don't be a stranger.
I already spoke to her on that one.
Absolutely. As always, look, people do move on and move up in life, and at the end of the day, she's got to pay the bills.
It's a great opportunity. So just for people that don't know, Brianna worked with Brian Broaddus, worked her on a little segment on YouTube. She's now been offered a host show broadcast
staff writer.
She's now an official staff writer for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers now. So we wish her all the best, all love from the UK Cowboys.
We will speak to her again. No, 100% without a doubt. But there we go.
Oh, hello.
The other news I wanted to say is that it's quite interesting as well that a lot of people are upset about the Amari Cooper being moved on and all the rest of it. And then Deebo Samuel comes out all of a sudden today and goes, I want 30 million. And 49ers go, nah, off he goes. He's off. The carousel continues.
It's what's happening. The owners are going to, we can't. Do we know to speak about this, Mike? About the cycle of how teams are going to process now. Is if a player's going to ask for too much, they're going to let them go and bring someone else in. That's the nature of it. So I do not blame the 49ers to say, well, okay then, we will probably because let's be honest, they might actually end up trade them to, I don't know, as much as I'm just thinking of a pure weird scenario here. I'm thinking with, unfortunately, Philadelphia, they've got 3 first rounders. That's right.
Yeah.
If Debo was to go to Philadelphia, and they're probably stupid enough to pay that stupid amount of money because they're a trash organization. Sorry, Philadelphia, but you are. So's your fans. But anyway, but but you get
my hand in the right place. Go on, carry on. Sorry, mate.
But you get but you kind of get where I'm kind of going at now. Whereas San Francisco, they'll be like, okay, we've just got a first round draft pick. We might as well we can actually probably get Chris Olave now as our good replacement. There you go. We've got him tied in for 5 years. So there you go on a rookie contract. So for them, it'll just be more of that type of like keep the train going type of thing.
Yeah.
You know?
And like me and you, we were speaking to Big Game James last week, and I posed the question, and I'll ask you because I asked Paul, so I'll ask you, Brian. That I foresee anyway, with the way the wide receiver talent has been in the last few years and how is predicting to look in the next few years, I can see a lot of wide receivers being taken in the first round, only because one, they're getting expensive. They're climbing that way, and obviously these established wide receivers know this, which is why they're asking for big bucks. But you're going to see a lot more teams taking wide receivers in the first round. Not so much because of how talented they are, but because it gives you the 5th-year option. So that means it's another year you don't have to pay $30 million for a pass catcher.
Yeah.
I would fully agree and endorse that because, like, if you look around this league, there are stupid teams in this league who make stupid decisions every year and still end up with top 10 draft picks. And someone will pay him $30 million and give up draft capital. And the 49ers, who I will freely say are a very well-run organization, they have a great front office who draft particularly well, will go, okay, we've lost Deebo Samuel. Let's get the next guy who can play in the Wildcat, who can do what Deebo does in the 3rd round, and we'll ship him on in a year or two's time, and we'll get a good pick. Yeah. Because it's generally, if you look at it, the well-run organizations who draft well continue to draft well. The teams who draft badly continue to draft badly and try and chase it with trading away draft picks. So you have to. I think it's one of the things that I think the Cowboys don't get enough credit for is that they tend to balance that out a lot better than like most teams.
Yeah, we seem to be like we're in
the free agency.
We're in that like draft good, free agency bad. It's like we don't have that. We don't have that balance to protect ourselves going into the draft. It's like we're now overcompensating. Not overcome. That's probably the wrong word to use, but
I know
we're more in a hectic environment going into this draft. Like, well, for the first time in a long time, I think this is the most hectic I feel going into a draft. Like, so just that there's so many positions that are required and need a lot of attention right now.
Yeah. Like, I mean, there's very few positions, if we were to look at it, that we don't need a player.
No.
Like, I would say quarterback
safety?
And running back are about.
Maybe safety.
I would take a safety if there was a safety available.
Depends.
But knowing this organization, they won't. But for me, apart from quarterback and running back, I think you could draft anywhere else, and that player could be a day one starter.
Yeah. Again, it wouldn't surprise me if we do draft a quarterback in the late rounds. It's a Mike McCarthy thing, but whoever Will McClay and Jerry and Steven will look into that again. I don't know. DJ Dog just revealing the comment they are waiting to sign free agents after the draft. That makes sense because some teams might want to kind of like they've drafted a player in, keep that. What's the point of having this particular player? Release them. It makes sense. You see it happen all the time. Just right before the draft, some certain players you just unexpectedly see, oh crap, they've just been released. So,
and the 3 positions I can think immediately that they would probably look into free agency post-draft would be running back, just so you've got a body there, because what's happening with Shea Olulua and all the rest of it gives you that third guy, camp body. The next one, I think, would be linebacker, because you've got somewhat with Jabril Cox. Yeah, you need bodies. And the last one is cornerback, only because of question marks with what happened last week with Kelvin Joseph.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, we're not going to go into that at all. It's not worth discussing.
Till there's something to talk about, there's nothing to talk about.
Yeah, there is. But look, let's take a look at these guys that we've picked out for tonight. And Paul, I'm going to throw this straight over to you.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you to talk about your pet cat of this draft, your Neville Gallimore of 2022.
Mm-hmm.
So take it away. Tell us about Cole Strange, Chattanooga.
I'm just going to say, I'm not going to interject at all. You talk Cole Strange, and then we'll move on.
Cole Strange of Chattanooga. Majority played for offensive guard, can play center, has an IQ for being an offensive lineman. You guys might think I'm a wee bit crazy, but I do see in terms of the intelligence where the Travis Frederick intelligence comes from in terms of reading the line, reading the defensive line, where it's situated, and being in the right position at the right time. I think that is probably one of the best fundamentals you could ever ask for O-line. You could probably question about is upper body strength and stuff like that, possibly, maybe, but he's never really had to I'm trying to find the right term.
Oh, that's better.
You all right?
Yeah, I need to adjust my chin.
He's never really had to oh god, what's the bloody terminology here?
He's never been in stretch, is where you're trying to go.
He's never had to overcommit in terms of and blocks or in his assignment in terms of who to block. When you if you're an offensive lineman, you try to get to the block really quick and you overcommit the first step. No, he's very calculated when it comes to that. If you watch his film and watch his first step, he wants to see. He takes that that millisecond of a read and kind of readjust himself. So that's what I love about Cole right now. I mean, and look at and the one thing I was really impressed about was his combine numbers, especially. He was probably one of the guys that really kind of stood out as well. 31 reps at bench press. Then again, I kind of contradict myself. It's upper body strength. 31 is actually pretty decent for a school that's not within the bigger schools, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
But so vertical jump 28, broad jump 120, 7 cone drill 7.44, 20-yard shuffle 4.5, and his 40-yard dash is 5.03. But yeah, man, the pad level, high off the snap and beyond, he's definitely made for zone. And that's definitely, I think that would definitely benefit our run game going forward. And that's one thing that we've lacked is zone blocking, especially in the left guard center position, where there's been a lot of miscommunication in that way. So, I mean, how long have I got here on this?
Well, I mean, if you wanted to find
as long as you want.
Yeah, I mean, you want to find a negative on him. I mean, there's some obvious ones, but one that doesn't get talked a lot about is he's already 24 years of age.
Yeah, so so he is the older age out of the draft class for offensive linemen, but at the same time, I think that just now comes to you know where I'm going with this. I'm just trying to really I'm just excited. If we were to try and I tried to get him on the World's team, but he's now he did kind of respond. He sent me a follow back, and he would kind of respond, saying sorry, but my obligations are up to the neck. He's been obviously going on ESPN interviews and stuff like that, for the upcoming for the draft. So unfortunately, we couldn't get him on the World's team show, unfortunately. But the only other thing I would say that he would need to improve on is is his hands a little bit. Like, they're not as powerful enough. The hands are there in terms of placement, but they're not powerful enough to jack someone up, like in pass protection. But when it comes to him moving his feet and going forward and pushing someone back that way, oh yes, that's a good positive to have. So it's definitely.
You do look at it when you watch, because I mean, I've watched 3 games with Chattanooga to look at him, and one thing you do notice is the leaner lower half, which obviously means that he struggles to absorb the blows when they come into him. That's the thing that that does concern me with him.
Because you feel as though he's a wee bit undersized.
Just in the lower half. If you look at him from the waist down, it looks a bit.
Oh no, I would, if it was me, if it was me, anything, I would say it would be his upper half. To be honest with you, like, but again, it's you see, there's a lot of offensive linemen that have the more skinnier looking, more athletic looking legs, and the more they look like Dr. Robotniks of offensive linemen out there. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's just down to physical appearance more than it, but as long as they can actually do the job end of the day, and that's what we're seeing in the film, he can do a really good job. Will he be a good fit for the Cowboys? I would say so, especially when it comes to the type of schemes that Kellen Moore might want to do. But he can play center as well. He can do that. He did that at the Senior Bowl, I believe. Like, he was taking snaps at that. And he was getting interviewed regards to his flexibility as well. So Chris there talking about Tyler Linderbaum at center is my dream. If it really depends though, Chris, if he's there at 24 and there's no any really reliable best player available options other than center, we might go there, but it really is. We just need to see what happens with who's left at 24.
As the president of the Tyler Linderbaum hype train for about a year, I will say there's absolutely no chance he will be drafted by the Cowboys. They didn't bring him in for a 30 interview. They didn't talk to him at the combine.
Yeah.
They're not interested.
That's the impression. That's all I've got too. Yeah.
Generally, the first round pick has been interviewed and looked at extensively.
In saying that though, Brian, CD Lamb, we never interviewed him.
Yeah, but they never expected to get CD Lamb. They didn't expect him to be there at 17. Whereas Tyler Linderbaum, unless they expect him to go in the top 10, there is opportunities that he could be there. So why would they not have interviewed him? But look, let's go back to the Cole Strange talk, because that's what we're trying to focus on, because this is someone who you could potentially be looking at as a day 2 guy. So are you looking at him as a center? Are you looking at him as a guard?
Primarily, Brian. Primarily as a guard. I think he would be a good. I think he would be a good solution in the left guard position. But at the same time, it would still also give Tyler Biadasz competition to play at the center role. So we might, and this is kind of goes back to what Mike's saying, we might double dip. We might go for Cole Strange and might get another guard as well. There might be a preference. They might, like, the scouting team might actually like Cole Strange in terms of what he can do at center. He might not have all the experience at it, but he can certainly do it. But you know.
Well, let me set an example for you, or an idea that a scenario, if you like. Let's say Linderbaum falls to you, and you think, all right, okay, this is a guy that we weren't expecting to fall to us. He was our 10th best player. He's there at 24. Let's take him. Like we were saying, Jerry's looking at this. This could be the thought process that he's going down, which he talked about going up in the draft. So then he goes day 2. And all of a sudden, you've got, say, I don't know, Darian Kennard, Zion Johnson, perhaps.
Oh, well.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Let's say those 2 guys are available at the start of day 2. Jerry could be sitting there now thinking, here's a double dip where I could trade up here. I've just literally fixed the offensive line with a center and an offensive guard. That's my center and the left side of my line fixed. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm done. For the next half century, I'm done. Half century? Half decade.
That's a great comment. That is a great comment, Chris. Like we're and not to kind of disguise from the Cole Strange talk we were just saying there, but
just giving a sort of example, you know.
I know, but I will say is we don't have any more news regards to NFL London yet. We're still working on. We're still trying to dig in NFL UK to see if we can maybe get an ounce of certainty.
There is none.
But they're keeping their lips shut on that matter.
It's radio silence. And by the way, just a shout out to UK Giants. Hello. Just letting you know they're there, they're watching.
Yep.
Andy is in the house, is he?
Yeah. Samuel.
Yeah. Because it is a great thing that we do get on very well with the UK Giants and Andy and the guys over there. We always have great banter back and forth.
Nice guys.
They're guys who will take a bit of abuse, but they're well able to dish it out as well, and it's never in bad taste with them. So that's a really great thing to have. So. Anything else you want to add on Cole Strange, Paul, before we move along to the next player?
I will say moving up to the second level, especially for the run game, is a good plus. Like
getting mobile.
Yeah, meeting up to the linebackers and stuff like that.
Yeah. If Cole Strange is picked in the second or third round, Paul, what is the reaction going to be from you, sir?
It's going to be more than Neville Gallimore, put it that way. Back in 2 seconds, guys. Back in 2 seconds.
All right, mate.
Yeah. So, Mike, anything final from you on Cole Strange before we move on to the next guy?
Like the best thing people always say is, look, it's Chattanooga. Who does he play? But he did play an SEC team in Kentucky and held his own. Did absolutely fine. So you've got examples.
That was actually the best tape I saw.
He was all right. He did absolutely fine. There's no arguments to go against. Kentucky, good game. The rest of them, then you're talking, as I'm going through it, I'm just going through notes on the games and and the other thing as well is something I always say to you, Bright, is. You want to see a year-on-year improvement. If you see that incline, that's great. That's ticking boxes beyond anything else because it shows you that their game is improved. And with Cole Strange, you get that. From year on year, it's gotten better and better and better. That's all I can add to that.
No, that's brilliant. So, look, we have five other guys that we're going to touch on tonight. So, I mean, we've had Paul's pet cat, so I'm going to throw it over to you and give you your pet cat.
These guys?
Yeah.
Hold on then. Let me go back to the list of players. I will say the next guy for me on this one will probably be Tyler Smith. So do you want to talk Tyler Smith?
Yeah, because for me, Tyler Smith is a guy who I wasn't really looking at any stage until probably 6 weeks ago. And someone dropped his name and said, this guy is a potential first rounder. And suddenly everyone's going, Tyler Smith. And I'm still not convinced.
Okay, why?
About him. But that's just me. I don't see a first round talent. I'm not even sure I see a second round talent. And maybe I just haven't looked at the right tape. But, I'm just not convinced. So try and convince me why this guy might be pick 56.
Okay, so first of all, go watch him against Memphis and against Navy. I know what you're going to say. Oh, well, yeah, blah, 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 whatever. But, again, going back to with the Cole Strange talk, going from year to year improvement, you see that in Tyler Smith. And if you was to turn around and you said, Evan Neal, Ike Ekwonu, Tyler Smith, who led the FBS in pancake blocks, who do you think it would be?
I'm going to say Ekwonu.
Yeah, it's Tyler Smith.
Mm.
He outbeat Evan Neal and Icky. He's a powerful dude. And I will say there are limitations to his game, which we'll get to. But a big wide base, intelligent guy, very smart. Very, very, very smart guy. Can adjust his feet and can anticipate when things are coming because of his intelligence. And as a run blocker, you see it. He's got this nasty demeanor, killer instincts, if you like. Foot speed is all good there. So you see that, and you also see good trapping skills as well, which for a guy his size is not something that you see. Because if I just go through it, the guy is nearly 6'5" and 324 pounds, right? So I give this to you. Nice. He's got an 83-inch wingspan, huge. 34-inch arms, huge.
So just to put that, let me put that in comparison. If anyone knows the UFC, that's just short of UFC light heavyweight John Jones's arm span.
Yeah, I mean
heavyweight Paul.
Yeah, and you say 324 pounds, 10-yard split 171, 40-yard dash 502. That's 90th percentile. So he can move. He has the power. He didn't do a bench, which I was kind of sad about because it'd be quite impressive to see what he get. But it's a guy who does have some limitations, as I say. He can overextend and lose balance. He does get that happening to him. He's got this thing where you see he will get his hands inside and initiate contact, and his feet will stop moving. And then that's what causes him to get off it, because it's like, don't stop moving, keep turning your feet, keep going. And he does that. So it's more of a technique in his footwork once he gets to the block, because he does everything else fine. You could probably say he's getting off the snap. He needs to be a little bit crisper. But they're all things that can come with NFL coaching,
And as you say, Mike, look, the guy has developed year on year. The numbers are trending the right way. So with NFL coaching, you're not talking about fundamentals that are just totally broken. You're talking about things that with repetition, with daily coaching, and NFL level coaching can be improved and bring them the right way. But I suppose the big question is, are you looking at Tyler Smith as being a left guard, or are you looking at him being a tackle?
Tackle. I mean, he's literally only ever played left tackle. So that is where he's at. And when you look at the body type, he fits that profile. You try and get him to play a guard, although he's got the power and the run blocking technique and mentality to play guard, the body type doesn't fit it. So that's the trouble. And you go through it, and this is a guy who purely played left tackle, and you've got over 800 snaps in his college career, and in his college career only 2 sacks.
Okay. So I'm seeing the comment here from DJ Dog, and I'm going to pull it up. So Tyler Smith reminds me a little bit of Eric Williams, the right tackle from the 90s, raw but has skills and the mean temperament which you need. True. And I mean, Eric Williams was a guy who came into the NFL and absolutely lit it up.
Yeah.
He was a big, mean dude. Yeah. And he didn't mind.
Nasty. He's angry.
Yeah, he didn't mind chasing guys and pushing them to the ground and following them to the ground. Mm-hmm. So if we're getting a player like that, absolutely all day, sign me up. I'll take that guy. Yeah. I'm not sure if I'd take him at 24 though.
I agree. But I have seen
will he last to 56?
Yeah, I've seen. That's the thing. I don't think he will. Like in terms of second round offensive tackles, he's going to be one of the first to go. But I don't think like I've seen mock drafts where he's gone in the first. When you look at them, you can understand the reasons why. But for me, I feel that's overdrafted for Huntley. And also, if you're going to take Tyler Smith with your first pick at 24, now you got to try and think about your draft sequence, because that's quite important. So now, like, because it's going to totally knock that whole sequence, especially for day two, out of kilter, because you've overdrafted the guy.
Yeah.
So I like him. Raw power. Foot technique is a big one, and that's why you see, like the smaller, shiftier pass rushers getting around him is mainly because of his footwork. He has the power, because once he gets hold of you, you're done. But it's getting there.
Yeah.
And that's all I can add on that one.
Very good. Paul, have you any thoughts on Tyler Smith before we move along, or?
I mean, Mike's kind of more or less just, excuse me, just after demolishing my pizza there. Mike's just pretty much covered all of it. Like, I didn't really have him up. I didn't really have him rated as high as this. To be honest, I thought he would have be in the region at 56. But
he could be.
But the way how things are kind of being projected, that he could be like one of the guys to be in the early of the second round. So I don't know.
It depends really what teams are looking at. Are you after gap power? Because there you go. Are you after a zone blocking type guy? Well, then he's gonna have to wait for a little bit.
And I got to agree with DJ Dog in that it's like you cannot have enough offensive linemen in regards to that. The more in your squad, the better.
The safer you are. Yeah.
Safer you are, yeah.
Yeah.
And let's not forget how shallow our offensive depth depth is. Like, even if we double dip in this draft or triple dip, which I would not be averse to, we still need to pick up guys as undrafted free agents, because we need camp bodies as much as anything, and guys who can fill in on the practice squad, because I think we have 8 guys and that's it. So we don't have anyone deep that we can go, right, we can stash this guy for a year or two. I think, does Isaac Alicorn still count next season, or has he been fully...
No, I think he does. I think he still counts in the off season under the international player program. So he won't count on the roster then, but he will if you carry him in.
Yeah.
What's Brian up to?
Nope. I was eating, so I didn't want y'all hearing me chewing.
I was actually hearing eating noises there, but it's actually Arnie down here.
It's all going on.
Yeah, it's all going off.
So DJ Dog, who has been jumping on the bandwagon for Tyler Smith, is just bringing up the comment there that he is raw. He's rawer than Penning Cross or Evan Neal. But, look, if he is there at 56, I would have no problem with that card being handed in. There would be no fake pen throws or anything like that from me.
Where am I looking? Tyler Smith. I could go with it, because I don't think he's going to get you by the next pick again.
No, he's not.
It could be the scenario. It might be a guy we might actually trade up for. Who knows? This is the thing.
If they like him
potentially.
This is the thing where we're kind of talking about. If there's going to be a trade, it likely will be the second or the third round.
Yeah.
But I reckon, if anything, I think it will be the second. But if we're going to be trading something in the first, it's going to have to be a trade back or something, and get a second round on top, if that makes sense. So
that could work.
Yeah. It depends on the value, because I mean, if you look, for us to drop back 2 spots last year, we only picked up one additional third rounder, and that was from a division rival. So it might not be. You might not get a second rounder for trading back. You might not even get a third rounder.
It just depends how many spots we go back. Really,
Yeah.
Like what was the mock draft we did, Mike? We did with J-Tuck. We did the trade with Cincinnati at 31, and Zion was still there. Kenyon Green was still there, which was fine. So we picked Zion. But on top of that, we got a second round and an additional 6th round.
Yeah, I think it was a 6.
Yeah, it was a 6th round. So, and all in the same year. So that would have been a nice wee trade. Sorry.
I'm happy to trade back that far and get an additional second, and then you can use that to, if you want to trade up, you could trade up, or you can sit there, take an offensive lineman there, and you get your pass rusher or wide receiver. Boom.
Absolutely.
With your first 3 picks, you've just solved every problem that we've got at the moment on the offense.
Yep. So I'm just seeing the consensus rankings going through the bottom there, Mike, for the offensive linemen, and there's guys on that list that I've seen, and I'm going, I wouldn't mind taking them in the second, and we're not even going to discuss them tonight. So that shows, look, this is a very, very deep class, because I saw Abram Lucas I think he was 18th or 19th. Guy's an animal, absolute animal, and if he was to pick at 56, I would be off my chair. But look, the next guy we're going to move on to, this was a guy who we had a bit of a crush on earlier in the year, and then we went off him. And when myself and Mike were kind of going, right, who are the 6 guys we're going to talk about at the weekend, I said maybe we take this guy off because we're not so keen on him. So we're talking about Daniel Falele out of Minnesota. So this is
he's fell off the board.
Monstrous 6'7", 360 plus pound guy in Australia who is relatively new to American football. So, Mike, you wanted to keep him on the list. So
it's basically because he's the biggest guy and he's intriguing. But like you say, you just literally, like, if you want to talk about what the problem is and why he's trending down, it is, right, okay.
Experience.
Show me his lifespan of football so far. And you go, you only have to go back a couple of years. And that's it. And you go, and I'm going to have him on my NFL professional team to play. Now, the guy is a monster, complete anchor, right? Biggest guy in the draft, 6'8", and like all the weight you can think of, right? But the problem with him is if you want to get around him, you can. That's the trouble. So his biggest issue is, like you say, and Paul said it, is experience. The other one is when you drop. So first of all, you got to think of Minnesota Golden Gophers, this style of play. Not many drop backs. So pass protection is fairly simple. The issue with him is that he doesn't have that killer instinct in pass protection. And because he is so big, he'll set an anchor. So if you try and bull rush him or you try and get into him, you're not moving him. But the faster, smaller pass rushers get around him very easily. And that's why he's trending down, because you can get around him fairly simply with good technique. And he hasn't got the experience to fall back on to go, how did I do this before? And there's your problems.
And just another name I just want to bring up, because you could nearly make a similar story for this guy, is Bernhard Rehmann, who is Austrian, and he's only been playing this game 3 or 4 years as well.
Yeah.
Like, I agree, he's underrated by some. I've seen people mention him as a top 15 pick.
Pretty sure. I'm pretty sure he's actually had experience with one of the youth teams in the Austrian league as well, and he's like, because obviously with Austria, Germany, all those type of like countries that they do have like football over there. I think he has actually had playing experience there as well before going to college.
Yeah. Like I see mock drafts of this guy going in the first round, like top 15, and he's not. Trust me, he's not that guy. What makes him look good, first of all, is that we talk about this all the time, is competition level. He is played against hardly anyone. So that bumps everything up. He did face LSU and he did face Missouri. Both of those games, they were okay. You can go like, yeah, all right. They weren't amazing. Like, people are saying he's a day one left tackle star, and I just totally disagree. He's got issues with size, first of all, issues with arm length. Needs to put on weight as well. There's so much that you can start adding to it. And bear in mind, this is a guy, like you say, that he hasn't been playing football long, and when he started playing football, he was playing tight end.
Yeah.
So he hasn't even
been
playing offensive tackle.
Yeah, I thought both of us were trying to do it at the same time.
Yeah. And this thing is, he's also an older player. Coming in, so I think Raymond is 24. Is he possibly even 25?
Nearly 25, yeah.
So
I think by the time the season starts, he'll be 25.
Yeah,
he's definitely played ball in Austria for sure. He's definitely, if that's the case, like
so. Like I would nearly bunch Raymond and Falele together. I think Raymond is clearly the better player. And has played better no, it's hard to say he's played better competition because Falele has been playing with the Big Ten team, but it just looks more impressive. But to me, Falele, coming out of the combine, and what we've seen at the Senior Bowl, he's just a trash can full of dirt.
Yeah,
and any kind of movement, he's done. He's on toast. So anyone who jinks one way goes the other, he's done. He'll fall over. And, like to spend a premium pick, which, effectively your first and second day picks are your premium picks. These are guys you're wanting to start from day one.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't justify Falele anymore. And I mean, I did like him earlier in the season.
Yeah, just to give you, you said you bunched them together. I've got Petit Fury, Raymond, Daniel Falele, all one after the other, and they're like offensive tackle 7, 8, and 9. Going into the third round, basically, is where I've got them. And Raymond, he didn't have a bad combine. That's fine. But my issues with Raymond is that he is slight, he looks like, he plays slight, and it's the experience level again, which is the same with Falele.
And I think DJ Dog sums it up perfectly here. Is that Falele's combine numbers were historically bad.
Falele's?
Falele had less than 20 on the bench, hadn't he?
24, which is still bad.
Like, that's for an offensive tackle, that's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, you can argue as well the point that he has nearly 36-inch arms, so that you have to take some back because of that. Because obviously you've got further to travel. I don't need to explain the mechanics of it, but still 24. When you think of like the size of what he is, how big he is, you want to see more than that. But for me, the issue is the 32-inch arms on Raymond. That's the biggest. That's the scariest. It's because they're tiny. That's small.
Yeah, just on top of that, see, like I'm just looking at his actual historical biography on the Central Michigan website. Back in 2018, when he was 2018, 2019, he was a tight end. Then he's only played 2 years at OLine, only 2 years. Right, but he
put on £60 for it too.
65 pounds.
Oh, 65. Okay.
Yeah, like that's
wasn't that far off.
Well, over the course of 4 years. So 2018, he was 240. 2019, 245. 2020, he was 290. But in last season there, he bumped up another 15 pounds. So you were technically right from his last time being tight end to now. It was 60 pounds, but overall it's 65.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got too many kinks with people thinking Raymond's a first round pick, and I can pick that apart too easily.
Yeah, and that for me is the same. Like, I mean, I hate doing the PFF mock drafts because they're just there's so little variation. You literally know who the guys are going to be there for you. I tend to use the fan speak and pay for it because it's a bit more realistic, and they do update it pretty regularly. But yeah, Raymond, I couldn't get on board with. Falele, I couldn't get on board with if either of them were the pick.
Yeah.
But the guy that I'm going to move on to next is the guy that, for me, had to be discussed, because I think this guy might be solution for us at left guard, and I think he'll definitely be available to us at 56 and would prove the value. It is Darian Kennard of Kentucky, 6'5", 322, projects as a left guard. If we don't manage to get Zion Johnson or Kenyon Green, Darian Kennard is the next best left guard, in my opinion.
Yeah,
and
he's got the body profile of a guard.
Yeah. And for me, I would consider trading up for him as well if we don't solve the left guard position in the first round, because this is a guy who's played SEC teams and has played well against SEC teams. It's a premium conference. So why would it not be the pick?
Okay, if you want to go about what's wrong with him, or in terms of how he fits the Cowboys scheme. Because if you're saying fitting Cowboys scheme is that he's a pure run blocker, that really like that. If you wanted to play him as guard, you need to play him as guard in a more of a gap power type role. And the Cowboys are trying to, as you've seen last season, they used the zone blocking scheme quite a lot. That's not Daniel Kennard's way. Issues with him, though, of course, is that it's his hand usage. So not so much in terms of the punch, but that he gets his hands in. So what he's done in college at the moment is just basically bear hugged everybody. If you go and watch it, you'll see what I mean. He doesn't have much technique with his hands. They get up late. So then what he ends up doing is just bear hugging guys and mauling them that way. And he is powerful. He's just like the torque that he's got. And he's throwing 300-pound guys around like an empty tracksuit. I'll say it again. But he is throwing those guys around, and you see it happening because he does have power. His technique, certainly as well in pass tech, in his pass set technique, you do see, and there is none. So that's all. In some terms, some coaches will see that as a bonus, because if you don't know how to do it at all, you've never been shown how to do any pass blocking, that means you've got no bad technique either. You haven't got any bad habits because you've never been shown how to do it. So that's good. So it's from the ground up with him in terms of that.
You talking about Darian Kennard?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think I don't know, but I've got a different opinion about that.
No one.
Like, he's got a bad habit of leaning in with his head when it comes to blocks.
In pass technique?
In both. And engaging of a block in general.
Okay.
Like, and that could be an injury risk as well going forward in years to come. And that's something that's really hard to untrain yourself not to do, because it's just an instinct to kind of like come in with the head, like when you're engaging with a block. So
in fact, I do have that written here. Ducks his head and gets too upright.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got that on my notes. So yeah, there is that side of it all, but it's more that I suppose that reiterates your point, Paul, that he's ducking his head, he's getting upright, which shows that he doesn't have technique on pass protection. But the rest of it, like he's physical, he's strong.
Yeah, all the physical attributes with Darren Kennard, like, is exactly what you want, but it's all about the fine tune. He's definitely, well, and this is going to be a big question. I don't think, well, this is my personal opinion, I don't think Joe Philbin would be the right guy to teach Joe Kennard anything right now. I still think we should, like, I know I'm jumping into a whole different spiel here about offensive line here, but I don't think we are OLine coach right now is going to make a big, massive difference to his game right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you go into the combine numbers, and straight away you go the physical attributes are all crazy. Yeah, they are. But then you go into the testing and everything's just like substandard. 10-yard split, 182. You go 40-yard, 5.31. All right, whatever. But his vert, he had a vert of 25, a broad of 99, and a 3-cone of 8.11.
I'd take that. I'd take that at a heartbeat.
It's not great though. It's not when you're saying there's better options. I know you're saying you take that, but you're taking it more.
No, I was in DJ Dog's comments. Sorry.
The comment.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
So DJ Dog saying he'd take Linderbaum in the first, Pickens or Sky Moore in the second, and Jamari Salyer, the guard out of Georgia, in the third. Positive vibes.
As you say,
if Salier's there in the third and we've not actually addressed the issue in the guard position, that would be really good.
What's that fine? And like we were saying, you've just with your first 3 picks, you've fixed the offense.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
And fixed the war and a right receiver.
Yeah, exactly. So there you are.
So plenty of good options around, and I mean, as I say, if we trebled it in the first 3 rounds, if we went offensive tackle, center, guard in any combination, or offensive tackle and 2 guards, or 2 offensive tackles and the guards, I would have no problem with it.
I wouldn't have a problem with it, but I would still be concerned about getting extra bodies for defense in terms of numbers. Like that's my only thing. And the problem is, like, I just wish we had more draft picks for this year. I really do. Like 9 picks this year is not really gonna cover some of the woes we've done this year.
But don't forget, we went in with 9 draft picks last year and still came out with 11 players. So
that's true.
It can happen. It can happen that we will pick up other draft picks along the way. And I mean, DJ Dog is saying it here, taking edge in the 4th. I mean, I would have no problem.
Sam Williams is there. If Sam Williams is there in the 4th, then yes, I would take him.
in the 4th.
Yes.
I am not taking Sam Williams in the 2nd. I don't care what anyone is saying.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you.
Anyone wanting Sam Williams in the 2nd needs their head red.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Stats tell lies.
But anything else we want to say before we finish on Darian Kennard? I mean, as I say, I think if he was the pick at 56, I would have no problem with it.
He's a stone cold killer. That's the way to put it.
Yeah.
He is.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to wrap it up in that way, he's a killer.
Just looking at him, just from a physical point of view, he really does stand out. The same physical features as Tyron Smith.
Yeah.
He really does.
He looks like an offensive line, like an NFL offensive line.
He looks like an offensive tackle 100%. He's definitely not a guard.
No, he would have to play guard in the NFL, 100%.
Yeah, no, 100%. He's an interior guy.
Yeah,
think so.
But
yeah,
100%. There's no way he's playing offensive tackle.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But
depends on scheme. If you're gonna, if he goes to an NFL team that is playing a lot of gap power, then you can put him a tackle, and he will help you set the edge and overpower. Because if you're playing a lot of gap power, then you don't really have to worry about edges coming round, defensive end coming around the edge and attacking, like an attacking defense. You don't have to worry too much about it.
I just brought this comment up from Joe, and this kind of backs up what you were kind of saying there, Brian, about first 3 picks, even triple dip, or any O-line, or first 3 picks would be offense in general. That actually does kind of make sense, because it kind of goes back to the coaching side of things. I think our offensive coaches would have a more harder job to do, turning like not less talented, but players that need more work to get up to speed. Whereas Dan Quinn, you can just time a diamond in the rough and pretty much let him go absolute crazy. So I find that's a great wee comment, and that just kind of backs up your point of view in that.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the thing to be keeping an eye on is that most of last year's draft class was a defensive class.
It was,
and Chauncey Golston, also Diggy Zoo, Quentin Bohanna, Jabril Cox. These guys are going to have come on from having one full season in the NFL. They've also had no change in defensive coordinator, which, if you consider it, we've had 4 different coordinators in the last 4 seasons.
Yeah.
So these guys know the Dan Quinn system. They're not having to learn a new system, which is ideal for us. And it could then allow us to drop Kellen Moore, 3 offensive line guys, or 2 offensive line guys and a wide receiver.
Yeah,
and that would be ideal for me.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you, Brian. Like, I just want our O-line to kind of be fixed, essentially. But I do, like, just from, and I'm still in the back of my mind, I'm just still worried about our coaching, the O-line.
And like, you do make a very fair point, because if you look at it, is there any player on our offensive line that we can say has significantly improved under Joe Philbin?
No,
they haven't. I would even go as far as to say Zach Martin and Tyron Smith have possibly regressed.
Yeah, I would say Zach Martin is probably just still borderline the same, slightly regressed, but if anyone has improved, and DJ Dog comment just made the comment that Terrence Steele, that's an exception. That's a great exception. Yeah, I give you that.
And I suppose, to be fair to Terrence Steele came in with no expectations. Like, he was an undrafted guy. He's come in, and look, let's be honest, we said it all last season that, Lyle Collins, he was undrafted, but he was a first-round talent. And, Terrence Steele has displaced him.
I don't know about Bayadish, though. I don't know. I'm still
again. Bayadish came in, and Bayadish has only had Joe Philbin as his offensive line coach. And I remember the class he was drafted in, that Tyler Biadasz was at the start of that season. Tyler Biadasz was a first-round pick. He was that season's Tyler Linderbaum. He was projected to go within the top 15 to 20 picks. Medicals and injuries dropped him further down the list. And that's why we got him as a steal in the 4th. But to me, Tyler Biadasz still hasn't nailed a spot. And that's why I would say, if Tyler Linderbaum was there, I would take him.
Yeah. No, it's definitely fair. It's just I just saw DJ Dog's comment there. You mentioned Bayadish. I don't know if you're referring to him. He's improved this year, DJ Dog, but you could say his San Francisco game back in the playoffs there. He was our best O-lineman in that game. He had a good, solid end to the season, but I still kind of feel as though there's a lot of miscommunication from him interlinking with his other offensive linemen, like in terms of gap assignment. There's been clashes where our O-line making the wrong blocks, like they're blocking each other, which unfortunately that was what the Giants were doing. But I don't know.
Yeah.
But that he's just made a nice wee take here. Actually, hold on, let me bring the comment.
Yeah.
There's a discussion about the disconnect of Philbin and with the scouting department. McGovern fail has everyone take notice. Exactly.
To be fair, Connor McGovern was a Mark Colombo pick.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think McGovern's. Well, I don't know about you, mate, but I think it's kind of safe to say that McGovern's future is more or less he's just going to be an extra body within the O-line. I don't think he's going to be anything in regards to starting role or anything like that.
No. Like, effectively, if he was going to start, they would have kept him in when they brought him in for Connor Williams, and they didn't. They went back to Connor Williams and released him. I think unless Connor McGovern becomes the best lineman in the NFL in the next year, he's gone at the end of the 2022 season. And sorry, you pulled it up there.
Oh no, you bring it up, Brian. You bring it up.
Yeah, Philbin's job is to develop, and this is the issue that we have been saying is that Joe Philbin hasn't really improved the offensive line. And the only reason he's still in the job is because he's a friend of Mike McCarthy's. He's a friend of this head coach.
Well, there's that as well, and we still somehow managed. We still made the playoffs, but what more was that? Was that more down to the assistance of our defense keeping us in the game and all that type of stuff? Like, there's so many different factors. Like, I don't want to sound pure Mr. Negative about. Like, I still think last year was a much better improvement from an overall perspective from team, but I still think there's still some questions regards to the aggression of the offense, like in terms of technique. I still say Dak, he got a more productive year from his O-line to a certain perspective, but from when you're trying to do the run game, no, not necessarily. And I think that's the problem. From a passing perspective, from a pass pro perspective, it has improved. We've given Dak the opportunity to start like throwing the ball more. But again, we talked about Amari Cooper and all that again, but still, but you know what I'm going. I'm pure going off on a tangent here, but but in terms of the run game, we're now seeing less in numbers and all that stuff. Even still, like when you really do look from the overall perspective, run game wasn't actually that bad, but it has regressed. It has regressed. But the physicality, and that's the problem. We're not physical enough. We're not putting defensive tackles on the back foot. That's my problem. We're not. We don't have that nastiness anymore where we had 3-4 years ago.
And that seems to be a Kellen Moore issue or an offensive coordinator issue, is that we've moved away from the run game. The run game is no longer our bread and butter, and Zeke is going to truck it up. He's going to run off his A gap behind Zach Martin. Our offensive linemen seem to be create the space, give Dak time in the pocket, and let him distribute the ball. It doesn't seem to be that let's have a guy who's rushing for 15, 16, 1,700 yards a season anymore. It just doesn't seem to be where they want to play.
Man, crazy.
But Mike has rejoined us. There we go.
I'm in.
So we haven't moved on without you, Mike. So we were answering some of the questions from people. But the next guy we want to talk about, this is a guy who potentially we can pick up in round 3. And this is a guy who's played for 5 years at LSU. He's been a very productive starter, can play both guard spots, and can play as a tackle in a pinch if needed. You're not drafting him to be an offensive tackle in any way. So Ed Ingram.
Yes. If I was to say Ed Ingram, he's the opposite of Daniel Kennard. That Kennard struggles with the pass, but good at run blocking, where Ed Ingram's the other way around. He's really good. Like, in terms of guards, he's one of the better pass protectors. And that what he does, and it's both his positive and his negative to his game, is his hands. So that he gets you go and watch it. He's got a very powerful punch, and he will land that punch perfectly, which just stalls pass rushers, especially like as they're going into their rep and a pass rusher is about to break a move, they get stunned by this punch and just stalls their rush altogether. Really good. The other trouble with it is he does need to improve his hands, because beyond the punch, once he's stunned the pass rusher and he's stalled them, that's it. He doesn't. His hands drop to his sides or whatever. Not that extreme, but he doesn't get their hands on them. Like, what he needs to deliver that blow, then get his hands inside and get on them. But he doesn't. He delivers it, and then he waits for them to do something else. And it's like, don't wait, get into him. So it's more of a technique issue with his hands. But he is, for me, Ed Ingram is a guard.
Yeah, 100%. He's a guard.
Yeah.
You're not looking at him anywhere other than guard.
Yeah. And you said 5 years starting experience. You go through his career, as a guard as well. It's improved each year, and it's not improved. That would be a bad word to use.
It's been consistent.
Consistent, yeah. It never really improved year on year the way you wanted it to, but it never declined.
Yeah,
and that's how I would put it.
Oh. For a guy who is a 4-star recruit when he went to LSU, I think he's played as a 4-star recruit the whole way through, and is going into the NFL. And there's a reason. Look, I would project him as being a 3rd-round pick. So it's just that he hasn't taken that next step. It's not a knock on him to say he hasn't, developed. He has played to his standard.
Yeah, you give him some, because he's a high IQ guy as well. So you give him some practice reps. You get him into a room with NFL coaches, he will pick it up. He is that type of guy that will pick it up. But he's not a guy that you're gonna just basically drag out the draft and drop in and expect results. He needs help, especially in the run game. Because as I say, it's the hand usage, and in the run game, as Paul will tell you, it's about feet and hands in the run game. Getting your feet set, wide base, getting your hands onto them and pushing into them. You want to get into them. Moving. Yeah, and keep the feet moving. Yeah. You need to be the more powerful train.
Yeah.
Lower sense of gravity, keep the feet moving, stay up tight, up.
Hands inside.
Hands inside, head up against the feet, up to the chest plate, drive them down.
Into him.
Drive them back.
Get into him. And that's the trouble with that, is that because he's got this powerful punch, it knocks pass rushes off in pass sets. But like I say, he doesn't do anything beyond that. So the trouble is in the run game, when he's trying to get his hands inside, they're a bit clumsy, and he's still trying to figure that out. And it was, and that was another thing as well. Is on the run game, his hands and his feet don't work. They look uncoordinated, like out of sync with each other.
Mm-hmm.
But apart from that, good starting experience. You're talking over 2,500 snaps at LSU. He can move.
National champion.
Gets into the second level as well, because he can move. If you wanted to use him, if you wanted to pull, so you want to pull him around onto the edge, definitely pulling, coming around, and he's got the IQ to know when to do it too. If he needs to do it off the cuff, and you see it, there is. If you go on YouTube and type it in, you'll see him doing that. And he's well proportioned. That's another thing too.
Yeah.
Everything's all in proportion.
So Paul, any thoughts on Ed Ingram before we move on to the last guy?
Nah, Mike's covered it over, I guess.
Good. So the last guy we're going to talk about, this is a bit of a broadest pet cat, is Dylan Parham out of Memphis.
I don't think there's any mock draft that Broadus has seen or done himself. Dylan's actually in it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think if you're looking for someone who is nasty, and Mike, correct me if I'm talking out of my backside when I say this, I think Dylan Parham was kicked off that LSU team, wasn't he?
Oh, you could be right there. Was he moved off? He was moved off LSU's team. I don't think he was kicked off. That he just didn't get a role or a place. You could be right. Hold on. I'm trying
to look it up at the same time. But if you want to give us the info on him and what to look out for in Dylan Parham, because again, this is a guy for round 3. This isn't someone who you'd need to take by 56.
Yeah. So I mean, he could play center too. But this is a guy who's played linebacker and tight end. But just to give you an idea, the last 2 years, over 1,000 pass block snaps and only 1 sack in the last 2 years. Yeah. So that just gives you an idea. But he is very quick, very fast, very flexible too. A guy that when we were just talking, funnily enough, something I was trying to think about, but we were talking about in run block in the feet, about keeping your feet moving. He keeps his feet moving. That is what he does do. I would say that he, for the Cowboys, would fit nicely as center as opposed to guard. Yeah. But it doesn't mean to say that if you drafted him, that's what you're going to do. I just think he's more that way inclined because he's got and if you just go and look at a picture, if you just type in, if you just type in his name, Dylan Parham, and look at a photo of him, you'll see he looks narrow. He looks like a thin-framed guy. And straight away you look at that and go, ooh. And when you say he played tight end before this, you go, I can see that, because you can see it in him. So obviously that means it's easy to two-gap him. He doesn't take up a huge chunk in hole, if you like, which is why I'm saying for the Cowboys he would fit more nicely as center. And then obviously that means that because he's got this smaller frame, when you watch him try to absorb contact, you can see he sometimes struggles with it. On like reach blocks, you will see him struggle completely on that. Yeah,
he's just the notes that I pulled up on him is that he's a developmental center, that he's gonna fit best into a zone blocking run scheme.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's where you're going to need him.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. For me, I'm totally fine with the Cowboys if they took him. But I think in terms of, like you say, the zone blocking scheme, slight frame. So for me, I'm thinking center because of he's 6'3", 311. So he might even be less than that. Actually, I think I've seen somebody playing at 299.
I've seen a lot of people say that he's going to need time in a weight room. He's going to need time to put sand in his pants. And just as you say, absorb those blocks. Another name there another guy there that DJ Dog is bringing up, Zach Tom, center guard, offensive tackle from Vanderbilt.
I do,
if we've not really addressed the issue at the like more so tackle position or whatever that on the second, it's definitely a day 3 guy. If he's there in the 4th, I would pull the trigger on him easily.
Zach Tom is a guy again. If they did it, if it helps you out a bit, it helps you in whatever you're trying to decide to do.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's played the majority of his career playing at offensive tackle, but it's like DG Dogs just said, like he has so much flexibility when it comes to the line. So, but I don't know if he's played both sides, like play from the left side to right side, because that's a whole game changer in itself. Like playing, like if you're playing left tackle to right tackle, it's a different hip rotation. different, like you're using more like think about like a boxer. You're asking a boxer who's orthodox to fight southpaw now. It's the exact same. Like the body mechanics are not the same. So
11,
like the only thing that's neutral is center. That's the only thing that's kind of neutral.
So 2020, 2019 combined for over 1,000 snaps at right tackle. 2021, 858 snaps at left tackle.
So he's done both quite a fair. Okay, that's actually quite promising. So he could be a really good guy, like to in case the worst case scenarios or whatever. Not he could plug in and play type of guy for sure.
Yeah, and like this is the thing that like myself and Mike have talked about this, and Paul, you've been having plenty of experience on the offensive line. Will know like the depth in this year's draft it's phenomenal. Like as we say, Zach Tom, he's a great guy you could get later in the draft. Abram Lucas, we mentioned him earlier. There's Nicholas Petitfier. We didn't even talk about him. There are so many guys that you could get. Yeah, Cade Mays, Tennessee. I've seen him in the 6th round. You know, so we can get guys all the way down the draft. But you know, we could do another 3 or 4 shows just on offensive linemen if you wanted. But I mean, it's as we say, it's single days to the draft show. So before we get out of here tonight, guys, I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions, right? Because I don't think we're doing one of these next week. No. So, pick 24. I want to know who you want to be the pick, who you would be disappointed if the pick was, and thirdly, Mike, the question you asked everybody on last year's draft show: who are you throwing a pizza party for?
Right. Okay. So the answer to question 1, 2, and 4 is all Kenyon Green, because that's me being an Aggie fan. But you know, it fills a need. I think the Cowboys are doing it because when you connect the dots with everything, that's what it looks like. Pizza pie, of course, because it's an Aggie. So yeah. What would I be disappointed if
who would be the pen throw?
I know who mine would be.
At 24, go like say it would be like a corner, like because they're worried about what's happened with you know, the cornerback situation with Kelvin Joseph. So like say, you know, there's all those guys on the board, and then they go, but we need a corner, and Kaya Elam's there from Florida. They take it. I'd be like, you gotta be kidding me. You know what I mean? You could take a corner later in the draft. So maybe that, or what would be another one? Like really after that, it's just the guys. Like I wouldn't be a quarterback. I wouldn't be happy with.
Go on, Paul. Who are your guys?
The guys I would like to pick.
Yeah. So who you want to pick, who you think they'll pick, who you would throw a pen on the table for if they picked it, and who are you throwing a pizza party for? Okay, and folks, don't be afraid to let us know your opinions. DJ Dog has thrown in his comments.
Oh, I don't like his first choice at all.
I was assuming wide receiver was going to be who you throw the pen for.
I'm sorry, but I do not agree at all going for wide receiver at 24. Sorry.
I don't mind it.
I'll go into why, because I don't know if you might have. I kind of briefly spoke about it. Why though, DJ Dog? But I'll tell you again anyway. But for 24, who I think I would like to have in terms of need is Zion Johnson, then followed by Kenyon Green. But if there's a best player available option, depends who's there. If there's a Wyatt there or the Kobe Dean there, then I would not be mad if that was the case, because there's always good guys in the second round.
Yeah.
So, but any wide receiver, at all at 24. I just don't see the point because, so this is my take on it, and I kind of spoke to, like I said, I spoke to Meg Murray on the World's Team podcast. Is he just traded away Amari Cooper, a first-round draft pick for us anyway. We traded the first-round draft pick for him and traded him away for a fifth and whatever. The crappy deal of what it is. But the point is that Cooper wasn't getting as much targets. So what means to say under the Kellen Moore offense, we draft this similar type of style of wide receiver comparison to Amari Cooper, is he going to get the exact same distribution? Yeah, you can make the argument because Michael Gallup's injured, yes, but I'm just like, you can still get a decent wide receiver who's going to contribute more in terms of his offensive style for Kellen Moore and the later ones, like Khalil Shakir from Boise State, which is someone that Kellen Moore's more quite familiar with. That's where I'm kind of thinking in terms of that. But in terms of and Cedric Wilson as well. So you were trying to say, but he's now obviously Wilson's gone as well. But yeah. So what was he saying there? Regardless of our needs, who's your pet cat draft?
We'll get to that one now in a second.
Can you define that for me? Because I don't know what you guys.
So your pet cat is Cole Strange.
Oh yeah. Oh that's my pet cat. But that's not a first round draft pick though.
Yeah, that's your pet cat. Is the guy out there later on in the draft? But like for me,
that's my pet cat.
It's Jelani Woods.
That's the dream pick for me. And if we get him late at 56 or better in the third, but I don't see that. I don't see it happening in the third though.
For me, it's Jelani Woods. I crazy. Just a crazy athlete.
So for me, I think pick 24. I think they're going to take Kenyon Green. If it was, I would pick Kenyon Green. That is my pick. Who I think they're going to pick, and this is going to be controversial, and I think it's going to get both of you going a little bit. I think they're going to pick Derek Stingley Jr.
It could happen.
The cornerback.
Yeah.
Again, me and Meg actually spoke about this. Like, what if Stingley was to drop down to 24?
Yeah.
Again, it's one of those scenarios. It's like, do you pass up on that at 24?
Yeah.
I can't be. I wouldn't be too mad at it if it's Stingley, but like Mike said, if it was the other guy, I'd be quite mad about it.
Yeah. For me, the pen throw is going to be, and again, I'd say this might be slightly controversial, Jordan Davis. Because I don't want a 2-down defensive tackle.
Yeah, and I want Wyatt instead.
Yeah, I would have no problem taking Wyatt. And then, of course, I can't not throw a pizza party if this is the pick. If Tyler Linderbaum is the pick, I'm flying to America and throwing a pizza party. I can't not.
So that's your pet cat?
He's been my pet cat for a year.
Yeah, he's been his
you don't have a pet cat in the later rounds at all, no?
I suppose if I have to pet cat later on, it's got to be Cameron Dicker.
Yeah.
Dicker the kicker.
Going with the Texas boy.
Out of my own Texas, I would have Cameron Dicker or punt god himself, Matt Ariaza.
But Ariaza, I think, is out for the Cowboys now.
Yes,
I think this is something we need to ask the comments, people viewing right now. What do you think, ladies and gentlemen, is the odds of us actually drafting a kicker or punter in this year's draft?
Kicker,
like, give me a percentage range. Do you think it's going to be 25%, 50%? Well,
88% on a kicker.
97% we are drafting a kicker.
88% on a kicker.
88%. I like that. I like that, Mike.
Yeah.
So get the comments in, folks, so we can actually see how everyone would feel if we were to draft a kicker or possibly a punter.
All right. And then while they get that in, should we wrap her up with the
absolutely? Let's pay the bills.
Yes.
I will. If you do you want me to do it, or are you doing it?
Take it away, Mike.
All right. Brian, you do the read.
So, if you are traveling to a game in 2022 to see our beloved Dallas Cowboys, make sure and hit up the team over at www.cowboysexperience.com. So Barry and the team will look after you like you are absolute royalty whilst you're in Dallas. We, as a team here, cannot speak highly enough of the guys. You will meet ex-players, you'll meet current players. You might even meet some of the Jones family whilst you're there. So make sure and hit up Cowboys Experience before you go and use the discount code UK Cowboys to get what, gentlemen?
Free stuff.
And don't forget to ask for chocolate pudding.
That's right. That's right. It's all there for you.
Yeah, so just before we do finish off, we're getting a couple of comments in. So we just saw that Joe saying 100% of the kicker, and finally DG Dog saying the kicker from LSU with one of the 5th round picks. I like it.
I would be happy with using one of the comp picks to take a kicker, which I think is something that they would do. Sure. But
100%.
We will be back as well on
tomorrow.
Tuesday. Oh, tomorrow, yeah. We're back tomorrow. Yes. It's Wednesday, isn't it? Man alive, I'm all over the shop. So yeah, we're back tomorrow. We have a special guest with us as well. Again, it is the final wait. It's the penultimate draft show before the one on Tuesday, and then we're straight into it. We'll give you some more details about the draft day shows that are happening next week as well. We'll drop it probably tomorrow while Heck was about. And then we'll take it from there.
So, it is a good night from me, gentlemen. A pleasure as always.
It was an honor. Thank you very much, Brian, as well, for taking on the host role of these Prospect Project shows.
Absolutely.
We'll have to do it again next year.
For sure.
Yep. And guys, be sure to stay tuned for the trailer for our draft show.
And here it is.
You can try to break me. I cut my teeth on people like you. It's gonna take longer to take me down. I'm a step ahead, watch me wear my crown. Don't need a night to cut the cake and count the dragons that I've slayed. You can give it all you got, 'cause love is running through my veins. Oh, this lion can't be tamed. There's fire in my blood.